Just a moment. There is an issue with the. Let us first have a quick revision of the topic of depreciation, and then we'll be solving the problems related to depreciation from the textbook that has already been shared with you people. Basically, we started understanding from the point that why do we charge depreciation is because of the wear and tear of the asset, that is the usage of the asset. We charge the depreciation because of the passage of time. We charge the depreciation for the purpose of creating a kind of fund for obsolescence. If there is an accident taking place because of which the value of the asset decreases. For these all reasons, for these all purposes, we charge the depreciation on the different assets. Further to that, we understood the topic of the depreciation. In the topic of depreciation, we understood that why do we account depreciation? What is the need for doing the accounting of depreciation? In that, we understood the point that accounting of depreciation is necessary, one, for calculating the correct profitability of the business, because the matching principle, matching concept requires what? That you need to match the expenses for the period with the income of the same period. So if you have acquired an asset, you treat that as a capital expenditure. It cannot be debited to P&L account. But to the extent that asset is being used for the business, to that extent, you should be treating that as the expense of your business based on certain estimates. And if you don't charge that at depreciation, then in that case, you will not be able to calculate the correct profitability of the business, because matching principle in that case won't be followed. And please understand a point, if you don't charge the depreciation on some certain assets, it's an error of principle. It is not an error of omission. Non-charging the depreciation on assets is not an error of omission. It is an error of principle. Because matching concept, a principle is requiring you to charge the depreciation. If you're not charging it, that means you're violating that concept. And therefore, it is called as an error of principle. Then the second reason why we are supposed to charge the depreciation is to bring the asset to its current value. Because whenever I'm selling the asset, I can compare the sale value of the asset with its book value. I'm not supposed to compare it with the cost of that asset. And for that purpose, to bring the asset to its current value, to arrive at the book value of the asset, I need to charge, I need to account for the depreciation. We understood the point that depreciation is a non-cash expense. And if the depreciation is a non-cash expense, to the extent the depreciation is charged on the asset, the funds remain within the business. The profit remain within the business. So at a later date, when I'm requiring the replacement of the asset, I'm having the funds for that replacement. So when I do the accounting of depreciation, I am creating the funds for replacement of that asset as well. So these are the various reasons why do we do the accounting for depreciation. Then we went on to understand the four components of charging depreciation. Within components, we understood that the first component for charging the depreciation on the asset is its cost. When I'm talking about the cost of the asset, it not only includes the historical original cost of the asset, but also includes the cost of installation, cost of erection, cost of transportation, trial run cost, any expenses which are incurred to make the asset ready to use, or any expense that is incurred incidental to the purchase of asset. These all amounts are considered as the capital expenditure added to the cost of asset for the purpose of calculating depreciation. One point that we had understood long back when we were talking about the concept of GST, that if on the given asset the separate GST credit is available, then GST do not form part of the cost of asset for the purpose of calculating depreciation. However, if the GST credit is not available as per the rules and laws of GST, then the amount of GST paid will be added to the cost of asset as an expense incidental to acquisition of asset, and that amount will be considered as the capital expenditure and forming part of the cost of asset, you will charge the depreciation on that as well. The second component for the purpose of calculating depreciation, what we understood was the useful life of the asset. We know that the useful life of the asset and the physical life of that asset has the difference. Technically speaking, this is also called as the economic life of that asset. Economic life means what? The period for which the asset can be used into the business with its normal efficiency, with its normal capacities, incurring the standard normal repair and maintenance cost. That is what we call as the the useful life of an asset. Now, useful life of an asset may be less than or equal to the physical life of the asset. The useful life of the asset cannot be more than the physical life of the asset. The depreciation on the asset is charged only till its useful life and not for its physical life. Once the useful life of the asset is over, no further depreciation is charged and the asset is carried in the books at its scrap value, book value. The third component for the purpose of calculating depreciation, therefore, is the scrap value. That is a value that is estimated to be realized on completion of the useful life of the asset. Whatever is the amount that you are expected to realize, whatever is the amount that you feel that you will be getting once the total useful life of the asset is over, that is what we call as the scrap value, residual value, net realizable value on completion of the useful life of the asset. And with the help of this cost and the scrap value comes the fourth component, that is the depreciable value of the asset. What is amortized, what is appropriated, what is divided over the useful life of the asset is the depreciable value of the asset. The depreciable value is equal to the cost minus the scrap value of the asset. Cost less scrap value is what we call as the depreciable value. Based on these four components, we had understood the different methods of calculating depreciation. Please understand and remember, methods of calculating the depreciation and methods of accounting the depreciation, these two are the independent things. Methods of calculating the depreciation include straight line method, reducing balance method, sum of digits method, the depletion method, and the machine hour or mileage method. All those who have been referring the ICAI module online, they have not yet upgraded that. They have mentioned the sinking fund method in that. They've mentioned the annuity method in that. They've mentioned the repair provision method in that. These all methods are not applicable for your examination at all. Those are already been abolished from the syllabus of CA Foundation or the CA course, I would say. At no place you are going to discuss the sinking fund or the annuity or the the repair provision method of depreciation. So when I'm talking about the different methods of depreciation, we understood the calculation format, the method of calculation. We understood the different methods. The very first in that was the straight line method, wherein we understood that the depreciation under this method remains same from one year to another. Why we made that particular thing as the kind of understanding is because we have an assumption. Assumption is what? That asset is used equally over the useful life of the asset. And the asset is used equally over the useful life. Why not to appropriate the amount of depreciable value equally over the useful life? And when the amount of depreciation will be allocated equally over the useful life, in that case, the graphical presentation of that will show us the straight line on the graph, and that's why it is called as the straight line method. Under this method, the amount of depreciation and the rate of depreciation, annual amount of depreciation and the rate of depreciation remains same. Because the depreciation is calculated with reference to the cost of the asset under the straight line method. Further point, this is the simplest method of calculating depreciation because the annual depreciation under the straight line method is equal to cost minus Bangar value divided by the useful life of the asset. That's it. And if I want to calculate the rate of depreciation, it will be the annual depreciation divided by cost multiplied by 100. That's how we calculate the amount of and the rate of depreciation. One point that we need to remember under the straight line method, where the students generally make the mistake, that if the asset is acquired during the year, not at the beginning of the year, then depreciation under straight line method for the first year will be charged on proportionate basis and not for the full year. Similarly, if the asset is sold during the year and not at the end of the year, then in the year of sale, the depreciation will be charged proportionately till the date of sale and not till the end of the year. This is the point that we have to remember very carefully. That in the year of purchase and in the year of sale, I've already given the point to remember on this. Even though I may have given it before Diwali, many days earlier, still I remember that. That when you have purchased the asset or when you have sold the asset, in the year of purchase and the year of sale, the depreciation under the straight line method will be calculated on proportionate basis and not for the full year. Am I right? So this was about the straight line method. Up till this, whatever I've discussed, if you have any kind of questions, I'll just answer those questions and then I'll continue my revision further. Or we shall continue with the revision and you'll ask the questions at the end if you have any. Can you raise hands for me if you have interest of asking the questions at the end? Okay. The next method that we had talked about was the reducing balance method. This reducing balance method was basically brought in continuing with the same assumption that the asset will be used equally over the useful life. However, when we started charging depreciation under the straight line method, we observed that the amount of depreciation remains fixed from one year to another. However, the repair cost keeps on increasing from one year to another. And as a result of that, the total cost towards the asset, which is debited to the profit and loss account, increases from one year to another. To avoid that kind of drawback, that shortfall, what we do is we increase the amount of depreciation in the initial year, so when the repair cost is lesser. And later on, we reduce the depreciation when the repair cost is more. Automatically, the total cost to a certain extent, not exactly, to a certain extent gets balanced. And that's why it kind of proves that reducing balance method is more useful in the real life as compared to the straight line method. And that's why in majority of the cases, we follow the reducing balance method and not the straight line method. Now, under the reducing balance method, the rate of depreciation remains fixed, but the amount of depreciation will keep on reducing from one year to another. Why? Because as the name itself suggests, the depreciation is calculated on the reduced value of the asset. As and when the value of asset keep on reducing, we keep on reducing the amount of depreciation, because the rate of depreciation is applied on the book value of the asset, on the reduced value of the asset, and not on the cost of the asset. So in this method, the rate of depreciation calculation becomes very much important. How do we calculate the rate of depreciation? 1 minus nth root of scrap value upon the cost of the asset. This whole put into the bracket multiplied by 100, because we have to calculate it in the percentage terms. Here, if the root is of 2, if the n, that is number of years, is 2, 4, 8, in that case, We directly calculate that with the help of calculator, pressing the root button once if it is root of 2, pressing the root button twice if it is root of 4, pressing the root button thrice if it is root of 8, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the odd odd useful life, that is 3, 5, 6, 7 or something like that, then you follow your mathematical method for calculating the rate of depreciation. That is scrap value divided by cost equal to, after that you press the root button for 12 times. You subtract 1 out of that, divide it by n, then add 1 to that, and then you press multiply equal to for 12 times. And you arrive at the rate of depreciation. Value of that root, which is subtracted from 1 to arrive at the rate of depreciation. So under the reducing balance method, the rate of depreciation calculation is very much important. In the examination, if it is given to you, that's fantastic. If not, you know how to do the calculation of that. You need not worry about how I do the calculation of rate of depreciation. Again, a point of highlight here. We have done 2 problems on that same lines. If there is a partial year, that is in the year of purchase or in the year of sale, if the asset is used for a period less than that, less than full year, then proportionate depreciation will be calculated. इसलिए मैंने जब एग्जांपल लिए थे उसमें 20% की जगह फर्स्ट ईयर का डिप्रिसिएशन मैंने 15% माइनस किया था, because the asset was used only for a period of 9 months and not for the full 12 months. This is what you have to remember again when it comes to the reducing balance method. Then we did the comparison between the straight line method and the reducing balance method. Given the situation is same, the rate of depreciation under the reducing balance method will always be higher than the straight line method. Given the situation be the same, the amount of depreciation for first year under the reducing balance method will always be higher than the straight line method. And the amount of depreciation for last year will always be lesser under the reducing balance method as compared to the straight line method. So these are the points of comparison that we have talked about when it comes to the reducing balance and the straight line method. After that, we talked about a mathematical calculation method, that is the sum of digits method. Under the sum of digits method, we had understood the point that this is typical mathematical calculation based on the assumption that the amount of depreciation should reduce from one year to another. That's it. Accordingly, what we did, we calculated depreciation using the standard formula of how do we find out the number of years when the rate of depreciation is given under the reducing balance method? Tanishka, the simple way of doing it is trial and error. You do it on calculator, trial and error, and you get the number of years. आपके पास cost है, आपके पास rate of depreciation है, आपके पास scrap value है. So cost में से minus rate percent करते रहो. The moment you reach the scrap value, that is your number of years. That's it. Do not apply the formula. Next, the sum of digits method I was saying, under the sum of digits method, the consideration is very simple, that the amount of depreciation should reduce from one year to another. That's why the formula was developed as what? Cost minus scrap value divided by sum of digits. Sum of digits here is what? The total of digits of useful life multiplied by remaining useful life plus 1. I'd given certain point of understanding in this. 1, the amount of depreciation will reduce with the same amount from one year to another. 2, the amount of depreciation will be inversely proportionate to the digits of the useful life of the asset. If you remember, I had given the note of this. Sorry. I had given the note on this, that amount of depreciation will be inversely proportionate to the digits of the useful life. That's it. This much is the usefulness of the sum of digits method. You have to remember the formula. Do not forget that. Cost minus scrap value divided by sum of digits whole multiplied by remaining useful life plus 1. Then we went on to the next method, that is the machine hour method, which is also called as mileage method, production method, and similar to that was the depletion method. Machine hour, mileage, production method, etc. can be applied for the assets which are generally having the usefulness given in the quantity or in the output. Their useful life is not considered in number of years. Their useful life is considered in the number of units, number of hours, number of output. These assets for which the capacities can be estimated and the production can be calculated. For such kind of assets, you apply the machine hour, mileage, or production method. Shreya, you have a question? Shreya? Okay. Now, in this method, the machine hour production or mileage method, the depreciation is based on the actual output of the asset. If you would have referred the concept book on depreciation, you would have observed that it is written as Dhak method. Why Dhak? Because the depreciation keeps on fluctuating from one year to another. And that's why it is called as Dhak method. Straight line method, reducing balance method, sum of digit method, and Dhak method. Now, under this method, as the depreciation is based on the actual output, that's why I had mentioned this as a point, that this method will be the most appropriate method because it directly complies with the matching principle. A further point in here was that this method can be applied only for those assets where the usefulness, the output is actually calculation. Calculation is possible for that. It can be calculated. And even the total output or total estimated output can also be estimated properly. How do I calculate the depreciation in this method? Cost minus scrap value, that component remain as it is. Divide by the total estimated output, because now useful life is not number of years, useful life is the number of units, into the actual output for the year or actual usage for the year. Then the similar method that we had talked about was depletion method, which can be applied only for those assets whose capacities keep on depleting from one year to another. We commonly call those as the wasting assets. I've given you examples of that as the mines and quarries, the natural assets. In such cases, also the depreciation will be calculated on actual basis, on the actual output basis. Even in that method, the process of calculating the depreciation will remain same. That is cost minus scrap value. Divide the scrap value. There is what? The repossession value. Cost minus scrap value divide by the estimated total output into the actual output for the year. In these two methods, that is machine hour, mileage, production, or in the depletion method, we had understood the point that in the last year, if it is observed that the actual total output is different than the estimated total output, which is an obvious situation, which is going to be the case. It cannot be a kind of concept. It can only be in theory where the actual output is exactly same as the estimated output. The actual output out of the asset will generally be less than or more than the estimated output. So if it is less than the estimated total output in the last year, depreciation will be calculated with reference to the actual output of that last year. And whatever is the shortfall, whatever is the differential value, for that, the depreciation will be calculated with reference to the loss will be calculated for that shortfall. You'll calculate the loss as what? Shortfall into depreciation per unit. Whereas if the actual total output is more than what you had estimated on totality basis, then for that excess output that you have, you don't charge depreciation. You restrict the depreciation for last year to the extent of the actual output for last year less the excess output, whole multiplied by the depreciation per unit. You had made the chart on that if you remember it. In furtherance of that, we had talked about after this the concept of accounting the depreciation. In fact, before coming to the accounting, I would have asked about the prospective change, etc. Let me complete the accounting first. We started talking about the accounting of depreciation, wherein two methods were there. One, charging the depreciation to the asset account. Second, charging the depreciation to the provision for depreciation account. I'll directly present the comparative chart of accounting entries for the two methods. We have done it already. In the normal method of calculating, accounting depreciation, in the provision for depreciation method or disposal method, whichever way you call it as. When you purchase the asset in both the methods, the entry will remain same. That is asset account debit to cash bank supplier account. If you have incurred an expense to make the asset ready to use, incidental to acquisition of asset, your entry will remain same. Asset account debit to cash or bank account. At the end of the year, when you're charging the depreciation on the asset, your entry for charging the depreciation will be depreciation account debit to asset account in the normal method. Whereas in the provision for depreciation method or disposal method, you'll pass the entry as what? Depreciation account debit to provision for depreciation account. You won't credit the amount of depreciation to the asset account when you're following the disposal method. I hope it is quite clear for everyone. At the end of the year, in both the methods, whether you are following the normal method or disposal method, in that case, the depreciation will be transferred to P&L account. Your entry for transferring it to P&L account will be what? Profit and loss account debit to depreciation account. Further, when you are selling the asset in the year of sale, number one, you charge the depreciation till the date of sale. You'll pass the entry for that as what? Depreciation account debit to asset account in the normal method. But in the provision method, you'll pass the entry as depreciation account debit to provision for depreciation method, provision for depreciation account. Now, when you are following the disposal method, at that time you'll be required to prepare a separate disposal account. हमने kidney बनाई थी. You transfer the cost from the asset account to the disposal account. You transfer that provision accumulated depreciation of the asset from the provision for depreciation account to the asset disposal account. और वो kidney से हमने profit loss निकाला था. किडनी से ही बहुत बड़ा प्रॉफिट हो सकता है और किडनी से ही बहुत बंदों का नुकसान भी हो सकता है. ये बात सही है. सो मत जाना, शाम का समय है, बहुत दिनों के बाद लेक्चर हो रहा है, मुझे पता है, जिसमें खतरनाक सुपर फास्ट स्पीड में रिवीजन हो रही है. ये सुन के कुछ लोगों को तो यार ये वाला लेक्चर कहां से आ गया. वेल, फर्स्ट यू विल बी रिक्वायर्ड टू ट्रांसफर द कॉस्ट ऑफ द asset disposed to the asset disposal account. Not in the normal method, but in the disposal method. You'll pass the entry as what? Asset disposal account debit to asset account, transferred the cost. Second, you'll be required to transfer the accumulated depreciation on that asset. You'll pass the entry as provision for depreciation account debit to asset disposal account, depreciation till the date of sale. Third, you'll pass the entry for sale value in both the methods, whether it is normal method or the asset disposal method. In the normal method, your entry for sale value will be cash or bank account debit to asset account. But in the disposal method, you'll pass the entry as cash or bank account debit to asset disposal account. On profit on sale of asset, in the normal method, you'll pass the entry as asset account debit to profit on sale of asset. And in asset disposal account, you'll pass the entry as asset disposal account debit to profit on sale of asset. If there is a loss, you'll pass the entry as loss on sale of asset account debit to asset account in the normal method and loss on sale of asset account debit to asset disposal account in the asset disposal method. These are the only entries that we have talked about. Based on this only we did the examples. इसी के बेसिस पे हमने क्वेश्चंस किए थे जो हमारे थे, जो हमने सॉल्व किए थे क्लास में. जब तुमको थोड़ा थोड़ा टेंशन आता था और पेपर आते सहित तुम्हारा टेंशन बढ़ जाएगा. 29 November, you have got the test on the subject of accounts, covering the topic of what? Preliminary, that is introduction, rectification, BRS, bills of exchange, depreciation. That's it. Only 5 chapters will be there for your test. Approximately 60 to 80 marks will be the test. बहुत बढ़िया रहेगी टेस्ट, मजा आएगा तुमको सॉल्व करके। जब तुम सॉल्व करोगे और जब वो टाका ढीला होगा ना, तब पता चलेगा। ऑलराइट, आर यू पीपल एंजॉयिंग दिस? बिकॉज आई हैव टू टॉक अबाउट ओनली वन मोर कंसेप्ट नाउ। दगदग हो रेला है, खुशी कोई नहीं, ठीक हो जाएगा सब कुछ। The last concept that we had talked about was the prospective change in depreciation. The prospective change in depreciation means what? Changing the depreciation from the point of change in estimate to the remaining useful life. That is, whenever there is a change in the scrap value, useful life, cost of the asset, that is book value of the asset, in that case, for the remaining period of that asset, you change the amount of depreciation, the rate of depreciation as per the method. In that case, I had mentioned that instead of book value, the revalued amount will be considered, if any. If there is an upward revaluation, you'll add it to the book value. If there is a downward revaluation, you'll subtract it from the book value for the purpose of calculating depreciation. The scrap value will be replaced by the revised scrap value if you have done it. The useful life of the asset will be the remaining useful life. जो बची कुची जिंदगी है उतना ही will be the useful life. And the method of depreciation will be the new method of depreciation if it is being changed. This is what we had talked about. And within that revaluation, we had talked about if there is an upward revaluation, you don't credit the upward revaluation profit to the P&L account, but you credit it to the revaluation reserve account. If there is a downward revaluation, it's a loss. Conservatism concept applies. Therefore, it should be debited to the P&L account. And based on that, we had talked about the further revaluation concept. अगर पहले अपवर्ड किया था, फिर से वापस अपवर्ड कर रहे हो, फिर रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व को क्रेडिट करो। बट बाद में अगर डाउनवर्ड रिवैल्यूएशन हो रहा है, तो आप पहले जितना अपवर्ड कर चुके हो वहां तक का अमाउंट रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व को डेबिट करो। उसके बियॉन्ड अगर कुछ अमाउंट रहेगा तो P&L अकाउंट को डेबिट कर दो। अगर पहले डाउनवर्ड कर चुके हो और फिर से डाउनवर्ड कर रहे हो तो वापस P&L अकाउंट को चले जाओ। पर अगर पहले डाउनवर्ड किया था और अब अपवर्ड कर रहे हो, तो जितना अमाउंट पहले डाउनवर्ड कर चुके थे उतना अमाउंट रिवर्स कर लो, डेबिटेड टू क्रेडिटेड टू द P&L अकाउंट। और उसके बियॉन्ड कुछ अमाउंट रहेगा तो क्रेडिटेड टू द रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व अकाउंट। दिस इज व्हाट वी हैड टॉक्ड अबाउट। इसके लिए चार्ट बनाया था हमने। दैट्स इट, डेप्रिसिएशन टॉपिक इज ओवर। 45 मिनट आपका चैप्टर खत्म। 45 minutes and the whole topic of depreciation conceptually is over. Now what we have to do is only doing the examples on the topic of depreciation. I hope you enjoyed it. For tomorrow, please prepare question number, सिर्फ पढ़ के रखना, हम लोग साथ में सॉल्व करेंगे। क्वेश्चन नंबर 2, 3, 4, 5. Question number 2, 3, 4, 5 is what we are going to solve tomorrow. All right, so we'll meet tomorrow. As far as uploading of lectures is concerned, once I'm getting to the normalcy of my laptop, we'll be uploading all the lectures. Don't worry on that part. All right, thank you for today.